Hey guys, this is Ant bringing you another tutorial in Unreal Engine 4. In this one I'm going to be showing you how you can make a player spawn a projectile which can destroy an object, and in this case we're going to be using a sprite, like a brick that I created in another project. So without further ado, I'll get into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a blueprint actor. And by going into right-clicking the folder and selecting blueprint class and then choosing actor, and I'm going to call that BP. I'm just going to call it brick. So double click onto it. I'm going to add a paper component, paper sprite, again brick, and then I've already got my sprite imported. I've just brought one I never used before, and then just select it and then use selected asset from content browser, and then as you can see here it appears in the window. So once that's been done, what we want to do is just hit compile, and I'm just going to, first of all, before I put it into the world, I want to set it so that it defaults its 0 location. And there's a way of doing that in the construction script. So if you go into construction scripts and drag it from the purple node, set actor location, and then next what I want to do is I want to type in get actor location. Oh, wrong one. My mistake. Now, at the moment we've got the pins as vectors and the return value and the set actor location. Now what I want to do is I want to make it so that the X and the Z are variables, so the player can drop it wherever they want, and then it just be locked on the Y. So it's basically constrained, so it must appear on 0 on the Y axis. So the first thing I need to do is right click on the return value, and I'm going to split the struct pin. And as you can see, it divides each of the axes into a float. And then I'm going to do the same for the set actor location as well. And as you can see, they all appear, as on their own individual axes. So connect the X to the X, Z to the Z, and that leaves you here with the new location Y as 0 as default. Hit compile. Now I'm just going to demonstrate that quickly. Drag it into the world, and as you can see there, the default location is set at 0. Okay, now that I've created an object that I want to destroy, I'm now going to create the inputs so that the player can press a key and it will cause it to use it as an attack. So go into edit, project settings, inputs. And then what I want is new action mapping. So if you click the drop down, you'll see that you can go on the plus and add a new mapping. Hit that. I'm going to call that attack. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the enter keys to trigger the attack. Close that. Save it. Next thing I want is I want to create the projectile itself, so I'll go into the window, right click, select create basic asset, blueprint class, choose an actor, and I'm going to call that blueprint projectile. Now for the projectile I'm going to use a Ninja Store flipbook, which if you have a look in the window you can see here. It's something I used on another game and it'll do for demonstration. So go into BP projectile, and then I'm going to add a few components. So the first thing I'm going to add is I want a projectile movement, and I want a paper flipbook, and I also want a sphere collision. Call that collision. So you've got a paper flipbook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it in the window down here, and then I'm going to use selected asset from content browser. Next thing I want to do is I want to set it so that the projectile movement is the base object, and click in the window. I'm I'm going to scale down the projectile a little bit so it just covers around the Ninja Store. Hit compile, and then what we'll do is we'll get on to the part where the player can create this blueprint object. Okay, so the next stage is to go into the character blueprint. So in this one it'll be in 2D side scroll because we're using the basic template for 2D tutorial side scrolling. So go into your event graph, and what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to type in attack. And if you remember previously we created an input action. In this case it's the enter key, which will control when the player attacks. So what we need to do now is we need to type in spawn actor from class. And what this allows us to do is this allows us to basically create another actor from using the character BP. So if we type in projectile, it should come up with BP projectile. Now the only thing about this is it needs something to basically to know where it is in the world. It basically needs to know whereabouts its angle, its rotation, where the character is, otherwise it doesn't know where to begin from. So what we need to do here is we need to add a component. I'm going to use an arrow in this case. And I'm just going to call that arrow 1. No, let's call it arrow. Yeah, arrow 1, that'll do. Now if we go to move this arrow, you'll notice that you can move it anywhere you want. So basically if you were putting it in for a character, say to throw something, you'd put it roughly where the character hand would be, or where the throw would initiate from. So hit compile. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my arrow into the world, and it'll come in as a getter. And then I'm going to type in get world transform. Plug it into there, plug it into there, hit compile. Now if we just test that for a second, you notice that whenever we press enter, the projectile's thingy, although it's not doing quite the behaviour that we want it to do. Now the reason that is, we've set so that it spawns, but there's no actual speed or any sort of programmed functionality into the projectile movements. So what we need to do there is we need to go back into a BP projectile, and we need to set some sort of speeds and behaviours for it. So I don't want the projectile to, I want it to ignore gravity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the initial speed at 800, and I'm going to set the max speed at 800 as well. Also, I'm going to set so the rotation follows the velocity as well. Hit compile, hit play again, press enter, and there you go. You've got a projectile that basically fires, and it doesn't just drop to the ground. Now it actually behaves like a projectile used in a 2D game. So next part I'm going to make it show you how to make it so the projectile basically interacts and destroys the brick that we've created. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that the projectile can now communicate with the brick in order to destroy it. So first thing we need to do is we need to go into BP brick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom event within the events graph. So right click, add custom event, and I'm going to call this impact, something simple. Hit compile, and then I'm going to go into BP projectile. So in order to recognize that it's hit the other object, you need to use collisions. So you select your collision in the left hand menu, right click, add events, and then you want to begin overlap. Now for this part, you want it to communicate with another actor, so in this case you drag it from other actor, cast to BP brick, and it automatically connects the executable pin up. Hit compile, and then as BP brick you want to call that event, so it's impact. Hit compile. So what I'm going to do is, just for clarity, I'm going to use a print string, and I'm going to call it hit, to make sure, just for bug testing, make sure that it works. So, players in the world, and as you can see, spawning the projectile, and it's coming, it recognises it's being hit. So, to destroy the actor, what we need to do next is we need to go into the BP brick, and I'm going to type in destroy actor, target itself. Now the other thing you notice is that the projectile was actually going through the object. We don't want that to happen. So what we'll do is do the same thing for projectile as well, and that's destroy the actor. And as you can see, it targets itself, so it'll only destroy the projectile. So, test it again, hit enter, there you go. Projectile stopped, but as you can see there's nothing for it to communicate, it's been destroyed, and like I say, the projectile carries on. So I'm going to demonstrate that with, I'm going to just hold Alt, and I'm going to drag out a couple of these. Move this platform out of the way, I hit play again. Move forward a bit. 1, 2, 3. So pretty much that's how you use a character to create a projectile. In this case, it's a ninja star. And then when that projectile collision overlaps with the BP brick, it destroys it, but it also gets rid of the projectile as well. Thank you for watching my tutorial, guys. I hope you like what you see, and if you do, please subscribe, and hopefully I'll get around to doing more Unreal Engine 4 tutorials.